What if you could really get inside the mind of one of history's most impactful leaders?
Yeah.
Someone whose decisions didn't just shape an empire, but still echo today. Today, we're looking at the life and legacy of Umar ibn Al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, the second Caliph of Islam.
Yeah, and this isn't just, a history lesson. It's really a deep look at how principles like justice, responsibility, and real humility weren't just ideals. They were actual, practical guides for running a state and for everyday life. Our sources show this amazing journey, from a fierce opponent to the absolute cornerstone of Islam.
Right. So our mission today is to pull out those key nuggets from your material about Umar's unique leadership style, especially that commitment to fairness, to service, and see what timeless lessons are there for us. For anyone, really. We want to understand that Umar's standard of leadership. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before he was this revered figure, Umar was actually, a pretty strong adversary of early Islam. What was he like back then?
It's fascinating when you look at his background. He was from the Quraysh tribe, a really high-ranking clan in Mecca. Strong guy, skilled wrestler, horseman, also a successful merchant, traveled a lot in Syria, Iraq, so he understood the big empires, Rome and Persia. But yeah, initially very harsh on the early Muslims. The sources mention him even beating his own housemaid because of her faith. His own family members who converted had to keep it secret from him. He was that intimidating.
Wow. That's quite the starting point. But then comes this incredibly dramatic turning point. The sources say he actually decided to kill Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. What happened there?
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment. He's on his way, apparently, full of anger. But he runs into someone, Naim bin Abdullah, and Naim basically says, deal with your own family first. He points him toward his sister, Fatima, and her husband, Saeed, who had secretly converted.
So he goes to their house.
Right. And he hears them reciting the Quran. There's a confrontation. He even strikes his sister. But seeing her injured, bleeding, something changes. His anger just melts away. He asks to see what they were reading.
And that specific passage had a profound effect.
It did. It was the beginning of Surah Taha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى الله لا إله إلا هو الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى.
Verses like, Taha, we have not sent down the Quran to you, O Muhammad, to cause distress. A revelation from him, Allah, who created the earth and the high heavens. Just softened his heart. He started crying. Then he learns that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had actually prayed for him specifically for his guidance.
That's incredible. So he goes straight to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and accepts Islam right then and there.
Immediately. And he doesn't keep it quiet. The sources say he went straight to the Kaaba, the holy site in Mecca, and declared it publicly. Challenged the Quraysh chiefs right there.
That must have sent shockwaves through Mecca. What kind of impact did his conversion have on the early Muslims?
Oh, huge. Abdullah bin Masud, one of the companions, is quoted saying, after Umar accepted Islam, we gained power and respect. Suddenly, they had this strong, fearless figure on their side. Think about the emigration to Al-Madinah. Most Muslims did it secretly, fearing attack. Umar, he did it in broad daylight, challenged anyone to stop him. Nobody dared. He really became a pillar, helped build the first mosque, even had a dream about the call to prayer, the Adhan, which was then adopted. So just a massive shift.
Okay, so from this fierce opponent to a central pillar. Then, after the Prophet, peace be upon him, passed away, and after Abu Bakr's time as the first caliph, Umar steps into leadership. How did he tackle governing this rapidly growing state?
Well, you see his background, his understanding of other empires maybe influencing him. His rule becomes known for really impressive administrative innovation. The Muslim state was expanding fast. Iraq, Syria, Egypt. Umar didn't just oversee conquest, he set up firm rules for governors. He'd even travel himself to check things out, make sure justice was being done.
It wasn't just about taking territory. It was about building something functional, something fair. What were some of these key achievements? Your sources list quite a few.
Yeah, they do. He set up the public treasury, the Beit al-Mal, to make sure wealth was distributed fairly, not just hoarded. He organized the army properly. Rules for service, supervisors. Importantly, making sure soldiers weren't away from family for too long, max 4 months. That shows real care.
That's quite considerate for the time.
It is. And he appointed judges, independent judges. And get this, he himself was called before a judge at least twice. Shows nobody was above the law.
Seriously, the Caliph himself.
Yes. He also set up things like night watchmen for security, market inspectors to stop cheating, really focused on the day-to-day life and safety of ordinary people.
And he was involved in infrastructure too, city planning.
Absolutely. He wasn't just governing, he was building. He personally oversaw the layouts for new cities, Kufa, Basra, Fustat, planning streets, alleys. They dug canals, paved roads, built rest stops with wells for travelers, pilgrims. Huge focus on connectivity and making life easier.
And education.
Immense importance. Sent teachers everywhere to teach the Quran, Islamic law, the Sharia, even offered prizes for memorizing the Quran, made teaching mandatory for Bedouin kids, and the calendar. He consulted advisors and established the Hijra, the Prophet's migration, as the start of the Islamic calendar, still used today. It's about bringing order, structure.
This focus on structure seems deeply linked to his idea of justice. And that justice wasn't just for Muslims, right? It extended to everyone. You give some examples of that?
Right. This is where his legacy really shines, that commitment to universal rights. The Jerusalem example is powerful. When the Christians there surrendered peacefully, they specifically asked for Umar to come sign the treaty himself. He travels there humbly, just with his servant, and the treaty guaranteed their financial rights, their religious freedom. They could keep their churches, practice their faith. This act of justice, this fairness, was so profound
that many people converted later.
Exactly. Not by force, but because they saw the justice in action. It built incredible trust.
That's trust earned the hard way. What about individual cases? You mentioned him being summoned before a judge. Yeah. Any other examples involving non-Muslims?
Yes, there's a story about a Jew who had a complaint against Ali bin Abi Talib, a very prominent figure, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law. Umar brings them both to court, and he insists Ali stand equally beside the Jewish man. No special treatment. He even tells Ali not to use a respectful title for himself if he wasn't using one for the other man, just pure equality before the law.
Wow. That's setting a standard. And the Egypt story, that one really hits home about dignity.
Oh, definitely. The son of the governor of Egypt, Amr bin al-As, whips an Egyptian commoner after losing a horse race to him. Just like that. Arrogance of power. The Egyptian travels all the way to Medina to complain directly to Umar. Think about that faith in the system.
He knew he'd get a fair hearing.
He did. Umar summons the governor and his son. He gives the whip to the Egyptian and tells him to whip the governor's son back, publicly, restoring his dignity. And then he turns to the governor, Amr, and delivers that famous line, "Since when have you started to enslave people when they were born free?" Just cuts right to the core of human dignity.
Born free. That's powerful. So this sense of justice translated into practical welfare, too. How did he care for the vulnerable?
Absolutely. It wasn't just legal. Older non-Muslims got state support, maintenance pay, welfare stipends were given to the poor, even newborns, a very early form of social safety net. And with conquered lands, especially farmland, he made sure local farmers kept control, gave them support to increase production. He understood that stability comes from people having livelihoods.
It all points back to this incredible sense of personal responsibility he felt.
Overwhelmingly so. His accountability wasn't just to the people, but in his mind, ultimately to God, to Allah, that famous quote.
The one about the mule.
Yes. I fear that if a mule stumbles in Iraq, I will be questioned as to why I did not pave the way for it. I mean, think about that. Feeling responsible for the safety of an animal hundreds of miles away because the road wasn't good enough. Sources say he often wept, feeling divine punishment for any failure in his duty. That's the weight he carried.
Now, his time also saw major military campaigns, expansions. How did he square that with these principles of justice and care? Was there an ethical code for warfare?
That's a key question. And yes, his approach was guided by principles. When he sent Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas to Persia, his main instruction wasn't about victory, it was about morality. He told him, "Fear Allah at all times, for fearing Allah is the best weapon you have against your enemy." And crucially, Guard against evil deeds. Evil deeds are more dangerous to your army than your enemy is.
So the moral conduct of the army was paramount, even more than the enemy.
That was the message. Victory achieved through unjust means wasn't a true victory. He also gave practical instructions. Rest the army, don't march them when exhausted, take a day off weekly, and, importantly, stay away from villages of peaceful allies. Protect civilians.
It sounds like a conscious effort to limit harm and stick to principles, even in war.
Exactly. And before fighting, they always offered alternatives. Accept Islam, pay a tribute, jizya, while keeping their faith and being protected, or fight. War was the last option. This contrasts sharply with, the typical total war approach of many empires then. We see it in the peaceful surrenders of Jerusalem, Damascus. The emphasis was on incorporating people justly, not just conquering them.
And amidst all this state-building warfare administration, he maintained this personal humility. The sources have stories about that too.
They do, and they're quite striking. How does someone with that much power stay grounded? He was known to personally look after orphans, widows. There's the famous story. He's walking at night with his servant, hears kids crying, finds a poor woman with hungry children boiling an empty pot just to give them false hope.
What'd he do?
He went straight to the state warehouse, didn't send anyone. He himself carried sacks of flour and meat on his own back. His servant offered to carry it, but Umar insisted, saying something like, "Will you carry my burden on the day of judgment?"
Wow, he carried it himself.
Yes. Went back, cooked the food himself, stayed until the children were laughing and fell asleep. That's servant leadership in its purest form.
Unbelievable. The head of state cooking for a poor family he found on the street.
And another story tells of him regularly visiting an old blind woman at night to clean her house and bring her what she needed without her even knowing who he was for a while. Just pure service.
It really challenges our whole image of power and leadership. Okay, so let's bring this forward. We're living in a world with huge challenges, injustice, conflict, questions about leadership. What can we take from Umar's example today?
Well, if you connect his principles to now, that impartial justice, the deep sense of responsibility for everyone, not just your own group, his use of consultation, shura, his protection of civilians even during conflict, these are just timeless. His whole approach was building systems that served all people fairly. It wasn't about consolidating power for himself or a select few.
That idea of accountability seems so relevant. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, even acknowledged his foresight, saying something like, "If there were divinely inspired men in my nation, one of them would be Umar."
Right. He saw his role as a shepherd, responsible for every single person, every creature even, under his care. This idea of servant leadership, power used with humility, constantly aware of divine accountability, it's a powerful model, especially when we look at conflicts today. His example highlights that urgent need to protect all human life, ensure basic rights, uphold justice even, perhaps especially when it's difficult.
It really makes you pause and think. Considering Umar's absolute insistence on justice, even when it was politically difficult or involved people close to him, how does that standard challenge the compromises we often see leaders make today when faced with power and influence? This deep dive into Umar's life, it just paints a picture of a leader whose principles weren't just words. Justice, humility, responsibility, they were in his actions every day. It's a powerful reminder that true leadership really is about service, about accountability, and that unwavering fairness for absolutely everyone.
Absolutely. His legacy really shows that strong, effective governance and deep compassion aren't opposites. They're actually, the foundation for lasting peace and a healthy society. It really sets a high bar.
We really hope this look into Umar ibn Al-Khattab's incredible story has given you some memorable insights, maybe some things to reflect on. If you enjoyed this journey into...
Please do subscribe to Sahaba Role Models on YouTube for more stories like this.
Until next time.
Until our next deep dive, may you be well.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع ما شاء الله we did it الحمد لله ما شاء بارك الله فيكم